Have you ever stopped to realize that your life might be shaped by the very first 10 minutes after you wake up? It may sound unbelievable, but something so small can completely alter the path of your destiny. That is exactly what Napoleon Hill discovered, even though most people still ignore it today. Most people wake up and instantly fall into an automatic cycle without even noticing. The alarm rings, the body rises heavy, and before they take a deep breath, they are already drowning in worries, checking their phones, reading messages that steal attention, and feeling the pressure of work that has not even started. It is almost as if the day begins defeating you, instead of you beginning by conquering the day. How many times has this happened to you? How many times have you opened your eyes and within a few minutes already felt drained, stressed, as if running after time from the very first second? This is the danger of living on autopilot, waking up only to react to the world rather than creating your own world. What is even more alarming is that once you get used to this pattern, you do not even notice how much of your own power you are handing away every morning without resistance. Science confirms this risk. Research from Harvard Business School reveals that morning mood and mental clarity tend to repeat themselves throughout the day, creating a domino effect. If you wake up anxious, lost, disconnected from yourself, it becomes almost impossible to regain focus later on. That is the hidden key. The first minutes after waking act like a lens. This lens can magnify the best parts of you or distort your vision, making you see the entire day as if it were already lost. The real question is, which lens are you choosing every single morning? Napoleon Hill learned this lesson the hard way while still very young. After losing his mother at an early age, he endured severe emotional and financial hardship. He worked in the coal mines of Virginia, enduring exhausting, dirty, and draining shifts that could have easily crushed his spirit forever. He could have spent his entire life blaming injustice, but he chose something different. Hill started using the first hours of the morning to visualize small goals, finishing a reading, writing a few paragraphs, or simply imagining what he wanted to achieve beyond the mines. He discovered that when he began the day focusing on creation instead of suffering, the heaviness lessened and hope grew stronger. It was not magic, it was choice. That single shift in his mornings transformed how he carried himself through the challenges of life. Now think about yourself. How often do you catch your mind repeating phrases like, "I have no time," "This is not for me," or "My life will never change," right at the start of the day? Do you notice how even unconscious words program your brain to believe in defeat before you even begin? This happens because the human brain, especially in the first minutes after waking, enters a receptive state known as alpha waves. It is like fertile soil awaiting seeds. The question is, are you planting seeds of fear that drain your energy or seeds of courage that fuel your growth? Picture two different people. One wakes up, grabs the phone and fills the mind with bad news. The other wakes up, breathes deeply, writes down a small goal for the day, and reflects on something to be grateful for. Which one do you believe will have more clarity to face the challenges ahead? This is not coincidence. It is cause and effect. What you choose to feed your mind in those first sacred minutes sets the tone for everything that follows. And here is the challenge. What are you going to do with the very first 10 minutes of your life tomorrow morning? Have you ever questioned if you are truly in charge of your day, or if you are simply following the script that the world has already written for you? When you wake up and instantly react to messages, bills, problems, and urgencies, you are basically handing over the keys of your mind to other people. The danger of living on autopilot is that it quietly steals your life. Years slip away while you remain stuck in the same routine, complaining about the same things. All of it often begins with the very first choice of the day. Will you rise as the master of yourself or as a prisoner of the daily rush? Napoleon Hill once said that every morning is a silent negotiation between your discipline and your fear. and that tiny choices shape your destiny. When you hit the snooze button, you are not only losing a few minutes of rest, you are sending a message to your mind that you are not the one in command. But what if the opposite happened? What if tomorrow you simply got up without hesitation, took a deep breath, and envisioned who you want to become? Even a small step in that direction could reshape the way you see your day, and in the long run, transform the way you perceive your entire life. There is a secret that separates ordinary people from those who achieve extraordinary results, doing something difficult right after waking up. By difficult, it does not mean climbing a mountain or running a marathon, but choosing small actions that demand effort, discipline, and courage. Facing discomfort first thing in the morning tells your brain, I do not avoid pressure, I grow stronger from it, and I rise to the challenge. Think of the tasks you postponed because they felt boring or unpleasant, that phone call, that workout you promised, or sorting out your personal finances. The more you delay, the more these small tasks become monsters in your imagination. Starting the day by running away only programs your brain to escape. That is why beginning with something difficult is so powerful. It is like turning the key from fear to courage before the world even begins to test you. Each small victory reinforces your identity. You remind yourself that you are someone who takes action, not someone who runs away from life's demands. It could be organizing that corner of your home you have been postponing for months, or going out for a walk even when you feel lazy. It matters less what task you do and more who you become in the process. And if you think carefully, this applies to everyone, because so many people you know keep saying one day they will start, but they never do, since they wait for the perfect moment. The truth is that the perfect moment does not exist. Those who achieve do not wait for motivation to appear, they generate motivation through action. Steve Jobs, for instance, had a morning ritual that seemed simple yet carried deep weight. He would stare at himself in the mirror and ask whether, if that were the final day of his life, he would want to do what he was about to do. Can you imagine the intensity of such a question? It is not comfortable, it is not easy, but it was exactly this daily confrontation that prevented him from wasting time on what was not essential. Now think about yourself. What is your difficult challenge? Perhaps it is waking up earlier, avoiding your phone right after opening your eyes, or facing that workout you always postpone. Whatever it may be, when you choose to face it right at the start of the day, you create a ripple effect. Each decision that follows becomes influenced by that first victory. Research in behavioral psychology shows that when a person begins the morning with a positive and difficult choice, the likelihood of maintaining discipline throughout the next hours increases significantly. And here lies the central point. It is not about the cold shower, the run, or the page written. It is about the identity you are shaping, an identity of someone who does not collapse under pressure, but grows stronger through it. This is the exact mindset that separates those who live, merely reacting, from those who choose to lead their own life with intention. The first words you speak upon waking are not just random phrases, they are seeds that start to shape the ground of your mind. Most people wake up saying things like, I am tired, today will be hard, another day of struggle. And without realizing it, they are already programming their own brain to confirm exactly that throughout the entire day. The body obeys, energy declines, and everything appears to conspire against them. It is almost as if the day were condemned before it even began. But there is a choice that can flip this script, to speak life instead of defeat. When you wake and declare with strength statements like, today, I will create opportunities, I have energy, I am capable, you are not lying to yourself. You are training your subconscious. And the subconscious does not distinguish whether what you affirm is true or not. It simply records it and starts acting in accordance with repetition. It works like programming a computer. Have you noticed how someone who always says, "I am unlucky," keeps finding more problems, while another who repeats, "I will find a way," almost always discovers solutions? That is not coincidence. It is mental programming in action. Napoleon Hill understood this well. During the Great Depression in the United States, when millions of people were consumed by fear, he was invited to help build messages that could lift the morale of the population. Together with President Franklin Roosevelt, he defended the idea that words of courage, repeated constantly, had the power to rewire people's minds and fuel resilience in the midst of crisis. This principle remains alive today because it reminds us that our thoughts and spoken words are not harmless. They become codes that direct our energy, shape our choices, and ultimately decide whether we remain prisoners of circumstances or become creators of a new reality. They could reignite the hope of an entire nation. And isn't that what happens to you personally when you choose to start the day speaking of victory instead of defeat? You may think, it makes no sense to say I'm fine when I'm tired or facing problems. But here lies the crucial point. This is not pretending nor ignoring reality. It is about choosing the lens through which you will see what happens, because the way you describe your life ends up shaping the way you live it. And this is not just philosophy, it is proven by science. Research in positive psychology reveals that people who begin the morning with constructive affirmations show lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and higher levels of dopamine, which fuels motivation and drive. Now picture two different situations. One person wakes up, looks in the mirror and says, "I can't take it anymore, today will be heavy." Another person, even with challenges, looks at the same mirror and says, "I am strong, I have won before, I will win again." Which one do you think will face the day with more clarity, more energy, and more willingness to act? The difference is not in the circumstances, but in the spoken words, and that is why what you say every morning matters so much. And do not think this is mere theory. Great leaders and entrepreneurs have always known the force of declarations. Muhammad Ali, for example, repeated countless times, "I am the greatest." He did not say it because he had already won everything. He said it so that his mind would believe before his body proved it. And look at what followed. His self-confidence turned him into one of the greatest icons in the history of sports. His words built an identity that carried him forward. The truth is that when you begin the day choosing your words, you also choose your identity. It is as if you were signing a contract with yourself. This is who I am, and I will live accordingly today. Over time, this practice reshapes reality, not because words are magical, but because they guide your thoughts, which sculpt your actions, which eventually determine your results. That is the chain. Words to thoughts, thoughts to actions, and actions to destiny. So try it. Tomorrow, before anything else, face the mirror and declare who you are and who you are becoming. Not with doubt, but with conviction. Not with fear, but with fire. Speak aloud until your own soul believes every syllable. Because the world will attempt to impose fear, to dictate who you should be. But if the first voice you hear is your own, affirming purpose, clarity, and courage, no external noise will be strong enough to shatter your spirit. And the question that remains is simple. What kind of seeds will you plant at dawn tomorrow? For inevitably they will sprout, and the fruit, whether sweet or bitter, will mirror the words you chose to sow with your mouth. Mind and body are not separated as many assume. What you do with your body in the morning defines the quality of your thoughts through the day. A slouched posture, dropped shoulders, and shallow breaths make you feel weak and unmotivated. And the opposite is also true. When you stand tall, take deep breaths, stretch or walk firmly, your state of mind changes instantly. It feels almost like magic, yet it is not magic at all. It is pure physiology at work. Science confirms that simple physical movements increase the release of endorphins and dopamine, chemicals directly tied to motivation, resilience, and the drive to face whatever the day decides to place before you. Energy is deeply connected to happiness, and if you want to change the way you think, you must first shift your posture. Most people wake up and stay lying down, staring at their phone, scrolling through endless updates, drowning in worries before they even step out of bed, already feeding the mind with a message of heaviness. Have you ever considered that if you start the morning slouching, dragging yourself, your brain interprets it as weakness and lack of enthusiasm, reinforcing that feeling all throughout the day? It is as if you silently told yourself, "Today will be heavy," and your mind obeys, carrying that weight through every single hour ahead. Now imagine waking up and instead rising immediately, opening your chest, filling your lungs with air, and moving with vitality. This sends a completely different message. I am alive. I am in control. The morning movement is not about chasing a perfect body or following strict fitness routines. It is about activating the power of your mind. It is about signaling to your brain that you will not spend the day as a victim of circumstances, but as the author of your story. A brisk 10-minute walk, some stretching, jumping rope, a few push-ups, or even dancing to a favorite song can transform your state. What matters is not the kind of movement, but the intention behind it. The true purpose is to awaken the warrior within you. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you started your day seated, still, complaining of fatigue, and felt stuck? Now compare with those mornings when, even without desire, you chose to move, whether training, walking, or tidying up, and suddenly your energy shifted. This does not happen by chance. The body triggers the mind. Winston Churchill is a famous example of the other side of this truth. He was a brilliant leader, yet he faced deep battles with depression and health issues because he neglected his body, living long periods sedentary, immersed in cigarettes, alcohol, and endless nights. Although his intellect remained sharp, the absence of physical activity weighed on him, damaging both his health and emotional balance. The lesson is undeniable. Even the greatest leaders can collapse if they fail to understand that the mind requires the body to sustain high performance. The body writes the mind, and vitality fuels courage. There is no clarity without energy and no bravery without strength. That is why every morning offers the chance to show your brain who is in command. When you move, you not only wake up, you also send a powerful signal: I am ready. From this signal, better choices emerge, focus sharpens, and heavy emotions begin to lose their grip. So ask yourself, do you wish to keep surrendering your mornings to exhaustion and inertia, or do you want to start programming your mind through intentional movement? Remember, it is not about appearance, it is about freedom. It is not about exercising for vanity. It is about breaking free from apathy and declaring strength. Each step, each deep breath, every drop of sweat is a silent statement that you refuse to start your day small, and those who begin big rarely finish small. There is a quiet power that most people overlook, a power capable of completely transforming the way you perceive life. Gratitude, not shallow gratitude, but something deeper. I'm not talking about saying thank you just to be polite or posting ready-made phrases online, but about a daily, intentional practice, especially in the very first minutes of the morning. It is in that moment, when the mind is still free from the noise of the world, that gratitude can reshape your perception and shift your energy from the inside out. Most people wake up already focused on what is missing. Missing money, missing time, missing recognition, missing strength. And when you start the day with that scarcity mindset, everything around you feels inadequate. You compare yourself, complain, and spend the day chasing to fill an endless emptiness. Now think of the opposite. When you wake up and choose to recall what you already have, the victories achieved, the small details that give meaning to your life, You step out of scarcity and into abundance. And this is not cheap philosophy, it is science. Researchers at the University of California in Berkeley found that people who practice gratitude daily have much lower cortisol levels and higher dopamine and serotonin. These substances are directly connected to happiness and well-being. This means that simply listing 3 things you are thankful for can boost your immune system, improve your sleep, and even raise your energy for work. Here is a simple exercise that can transform your days. When you wake up, before checking your phone or worrying about duties, pause for 1 minute and name 3 things you are grateful for. It can be something big, like the health of your loved ones, or something small, like the cup of coffee you will enjoy soon. Do it consciously and feel it deeply. If you like, write it in a notebook. If you prefer, speak it out loud. The important thing is to make this a daily ritual. It may sound too simple, but the truth is, most people do not do it, and that is why they remain trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction and comparison. Gratitude does not kill ambition, it strengthens it. Because when you recognize you already have worth, your pursuit of success is no longer out of desperation, but out of expression. You no longer chase something to fill a void, but to share what already lives inside you. And I ask, how would your life look if you began each day celebrating what you already have, instead of complaining? Maybe the change you wait for is not about gaining something new, but seeing with fresh eyes what is already in front of you. Your mornings define who you become. What you do in those first minutes after waking is the seed that shapes the fruits of your day, your week, and your life. That is the true key Napoleon Hill tried to reveal. Life changes when you choose to begin differently. And in the next video, we will climb one more step together so you can become 1% better than you are now. Thank you for being here. See you next time.